I want to take the macro, the tariffs to the natural conclusion in worst case scenario and best case scenario. Because the haters of tariffs would say worst case scenario is the US economy is like a giant ship. And if you start steering that ship to the iceberg, the pro-Trump people would say he can bring us back anytime. The negative Trump people would say it's hard to turn that ship if you get it going in the wrong direction. So if the worst case should happen, where would that put Bitcoin?
Well, first of all, I don't think we're steering towards a iceberg. I think instead what we're doing is we're building a fort around the ship so that if an iceberg comes near the ship, it can't hit the ship, right? Like that's the whole idea here, is that what you're doing is you're protecting the American economy. You're protecting American companies. You're protecting the American worker. One of the things that always cracks me up is one of the critiques of tariffs is like, oh, it's protectionism. Like, duh. What do you think Canada's doing for their economy? What do you think Mexico's doing for their economy? What's China doing for their economy? They're trying to do what's best for their economy, their workers, their companies, et cetera. And so if you think of for Bitcoin, look, Bitcoin is sensitive to a degree, right? But the beauty of Bitcoin is that there is a core holder base that's not going to sell. They don't care about tariffs. They don't care about what's going on. They're just not selling. And so there's some natural floor to what that is. I think most people believe that we're still in a bull market in Bitcoin. And so that number of people who are unwilling to sell is much higher. I don't know. Could Bitcoin go to 80,000, 75,000, something like that? Sure. Could Bitcoin go to 50,000? Well, technically anything's possible, but I think that would be very, very unlikely, just given how many kind of hardcore long-term holders there are. And to me, that's the most important thing, right? Is what is the percentage of people that, regardless of what happens in the world, they're never selling? That number's bigger today than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
So that's worst case, 50K, and nobody knows, but best
No,
case.
I don't. Worst case would be way lower. I mean, like if you go to the extreme, right? Like technically, Bitcoin could be worthless, but the odds of that actually happening are like 0.00001%, right? And so it's like, what is like the likely downside case? I think maybe is the way that investors think about this. And sure, the price can go lower. It's just unlikely that tariffs are going to be able to create let's say an 80% drop in Bitcoin if the stock market's only down 10%. There's some relationship there between Bitcoin's price and stock price. And so if stocks go down 10%, Bitcoin's gone down 30. If stocks go down 50%, then sure, Bitcoin can go down a lot, right? But if stocks kind of go down 10% and go sideways, Bitcoin's not going to go down 80%.
So the stock market is already down about 10%. Another 10% would be the recession, down 20%. And to me, what you just said is, okay, well, Bitcoin could easily, it went down 30 for the first 10. It could go down another 30 for the next 10. And that may be the recession close to floor for an asset like Bitcoin.
But even if it went down another 30% from here, like it wouldn't even be at 50, right? So if you kind of think about it from that perspective, again, it goes back to, again, these numbers, it's kind of like what could happen, we can like lick our finger and stick it in the air and hope that we're right. But really, I think that the key piece to this whole conversation is you get paid for the risk that you take. And 10 years ago, Bitcoin was very, very risky and there was tons of asymmetry. Today, Bitcoin is much less risky, but it is still pretty attractive potential future return based on what's happening in the world and the return that you could capture. How many people understand that, have bought Bitcoin and say, I'm not selling, regardless of what happens in the world? Tens of millions, 100+ million people. Again, there's different estimates out there, but I just think that number is way higher than maybe people realize. And that's why you're seeing, even though the stock market is down 10%, Bitcoin is down, technically they're saying it's down 30%. I would argue that it kind of wicked up to 109 or whatever it is. It was really kind of trading around, 100 to 105,000. So it's probably closer to like down 20%. But again, numbers are numbers, right? So you got to look at what was the highest wick and measure off of that. So it's just not anything that's abnormal for Bitcoin in a bull market.
So that was potential worst case. Potential best case would be we already bottomed. This was the pain. Everybody kind of caves to America. Let's just go for a time, best case scenario in terms of how long this takes, in terms of recovering the economy, getting back to everything's good. What's the best case scenario?
Well, I don't think that the economy has to recover, right? The economy, nothing has changed between November and now other than improvements, right? So gasoline's at 4-year lows, egg prices are down, inflation has crashed from over 3% to now it's under 1.4%, according to metrics like Trueflation. And so what you've seen is you've actually seen the economy get stronger over the last 3 or 4 months. Now, what people look at is they look at the stock market as a proxy for the economy. And so you see stock market down, they think, oh, bad, right? Which again, for your investment portfolio, yeah, no one wants to see the stocks go down. But the actual underlying economy seems still strong, right? Now, people will point to things like, the Atlanta Fed's GDP now number. And there's all these different ways. When you have, 100 data points, someone will always pick one and try to figure out how to tell a narrative. But I do think that the best case scenario here is you essentially create an environment where these other nations, they give up their tariffs, they drop those tariffs. They say, we are not going to manipulate our currencies. We're not going to subsidize our producers. We're not going to try to take advantage of the United States. And you see an explosion of American manufacturing, American job creation, and ultimately that kind of rocking economy brings stock prices, crypto prices, everything come roaring back. And so my base case is that we'll see all-time highs in stocks and crypto by the end of 2025. What that number is, again, if Bitcoin goes to 110, Bitcoiners will be out there yelling and screaming, new all-time high, we're geniuses. But I don't think that that's necessarily the number that a lot of people were excited about in 2025. There's people throwing out huge price predictions or whatever. And so let's see what happens.
The full episode with guest Anthony Pompliano drops in under 48 hours, so have bell notifications turned on. Pomp shares his thoughts on Ethereum versus Solana, when altcoin season, best cryptocurrency investing advice during a recession.
I think that the best advice during a recession.
What will be the 3 best performing assets coming out of 2025?
It's going to destroy not only the indexes and kind of beta exposure to asset classes, but it's going to destroy pretty much every hedge fund too.
Also, Altcoin Daily is so close to hitting 1.6 million subscribers for the first time in history. Under 2,000 to go. It's completely free, it costs you nothing, and we drop 1 video per day, keeping you informed on this space. So as crypto crashes, as the good altcoins emerge from the rubble, it's never been a better time to join this army, join the Altcoin Daily army, completely free, link down below. Also, I do just want to point out, the largest Bitcoin conference on earth is happening this year in Vegas. My brother and I are speaking, along with Michael Saylor, along with the Winklevi twins. We are speaking on the main stage as well, just like last year. Ticket prices are about to increase, so use code ALTCOINDAILY for 10% off your ticket, link down below. Like always, see you tomorrow.